happens. You're being pulled from many places because you don't have the direction necessary to stay focused. If you're always jumping from technology to technology, from course to course, there might be a problem.
Let's discuss how to overcome a terrible disease called the shiny object syndrome, a common challenge for tech professionals that get distracted by new tools, technologies, courses, or trends.
So, Paloma, tell me, have you ever suffered from that disease called the shiny object syndrome?
Every day.
I know. But what is it? What is it? Tell us.
Okay. So here's what happened. We have tech professionals tend to have very complex jobs where we interact certainly with different tools, different programming languages, different technology in general. So it's up to us to kind of hone in on one thing, learn it, master it, and then jump onto the other one. But most of the time, we try to learn a bunch of things at once, especially if we see a sales on Udemy where a course is selling for $10 and we're like, oh, this is my chance to learn, I don't know, about SQL.
But I think there's another issue. I think there's an issue of the lack of direction, meaning because
especially in the beginning stage.
Exactly. So you know at least you want to get into tech, but you're not sure how and in what direction. So what happens is every time you go on YouTube with good intention, something else seems to be more interesting, more lucrative, and probably seemingly easier.
Yeah, you also meet with very well-intentioned friends that tell you that they have a friend that broke into big data and is making $300,000.
And then you jump from
and
whatever
you're like,
you were learning.
Wait, I was learning Linux. Now I need to learn big data. Forget about everything.
Oh, I was learning little data. Now I need to learn big data.
Exactly.
But seriously, that's what usually happens. You're being pulled from many places because you don't have the direction necessary to stay focused.
Yeah.
So
there's an antidote to that.
And what is that?
To craft your plan from the beginning.
Yeah, but you have to know the shiny object syndrome exists.
Yeah.
Seriously.
It exists and it's not going to go away.
Yeah, because if you don't know there's a problem called the shiny object syndrome, I end up, because I've heard it, people talking about how they switch over from here to here, and they have a very good explanation for every time they change.
Yep. They don't recognize they're just getting distracted.
They don't even recognize that they are distracted.
Yeah.
So first you have to recognize it. Second, I want to take credit for that. I knew it existed, and I wanted to make sure it didn't happen to you when you were transitioning.
That's true.
You know, because I know you can be jumping around and jumping in circle. And I was like, okay, so we're going to double down and we're going to help you break in as a Linux system administrator.
Yeah.
Whatever happens after.
And it was a very clear path. I was going to get a specific certification 6 months in.
For a specific job.
So from day one, I was learning things that I needed to learn in order to eventually learn the things that I needed for that cert.
Exactly. Optimizing for a specific job as well.
Yes.
So it wasn't about, I'm going to learn tech. It was, I'm going to learn everything I need to learn and get every cert I need to get to become a Linux system administrator and land a job within a year.
Yeah.
That was the plan. So,
and even after that, I remember I took my cert. I came back home. I grabbed the napkin, and there's a picture somewhere. I grabbed.
Maybe we can find a picture and show it.
Yeah.
And show it.
I wrote down what I wanted to do after. And now it wasn't a 6-month plan. It was like 5 years.
A 5-year plan.
And
Yeah.
and I set to take certain certifications, and I accomplished that. Maybe it took more than 5 years. I don't know. The plan was ambitious, but I did it.
Yeah. So
And I'm happy to say I did not get distracted with anything during that period. I cannot say like, oh, I took this turn,
Yeah.
and I went to learn this other thing. No,
That-
I did learn additional things because, let's say, I was a Linux system administrator. I was kind of moving into the cloud space by taking cloud certifications, and I said, wait, in order for me to understand this, especially since I don't have experience as a network admin, I should go and learn more networking. But it was a decision to go deep, not to pivot.
Yeah, but I think, like you said, once it's a twofold thing. First, you make a plan to break in, but once you break in, the shiny object syndrome doesn't stop. Okay,
I work with people that have 15 years
and
of
they
experience,
still suffer it.
20 years of experience.
So the second step is to want to still understand it exists and to set a long-term goal, which you did.
Yep.
With clear steps with clear milestones, which you did.
Yeah.
So the first thing again is to know it exists. Don't try to make sense of why you keep changing.
Yeah. And also, if you're already in this and you're trying to learn something, if you're trying to change careers, ask yourself, am I constantly pivoting? Am I getting distracted by this new technology? Am I spending the whole week studying, but I'm still not able to sit for a certification? Like, that sucks.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be that way.
Yeah, but also there's another reason that usually influence the shiny object syndrome is your job. Because a lot of people let the job inform or influence what technology or what they learn next. And it shouldn't always be the case. Because you get to the job is going to require that you learn some
And
tools
you will learn.
to do the job.
Yeah.
You have to.
Yeah.
But do not confuse what you need for the job and what your long-term goal was. You see, what you sat down with a mentor, with whoever supported you to get into tech, what you sat down and built as a plan.
Yeah.
You see?
And sometimes when you let your job suck you into their priorities, like, you lose agency. And what does that bring? Frustration.
Yeah.
Because 3 years in, you're like, man, I said I would do X, Y, and Z, and I did EFG. Like, I did completely different things.
Yeah. So it's about creating a roadmap. It's about sticking to it. That is also why it's important in our community, even after our students get jobs, we still stay with them and we help them draw that roadmap for the next 3 years. Because it's the first thing, after I tell you congratulations, I tell you, the second thing I tell you is, let's work on a roadmap. Make sure you have a roadmap because you just started.
Yep.
Because a lot of people, because they've never made that kind of money and they break in, they are making that kind of money, they think they made it.
Yep.
But after 6 months or a year, it's gonna get old, and you're gonna realize there are levels to this, and you just broke level 1.
Listen,
You see?
and this career, it keeps you humble.
Yeah.
Every year, things change at such a fast pace that my knowledge from years before doesn't do all the work. Like,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter how much experience you have. Technology changes.
Yeah.
So let's say you've been using a tool called Terraform for 5 years. When Terraform gets certain updates and when your team members start doing stuff with the crazy new features, you're going to have to step up and learn it.
Yeah. So it's definitely about sticking to it, having a mentor, and understanding that a long-term plan is what gets you to, the kind of income you aspire to, and that's possible.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people don't even realize that's possible.
Yeah. And you mentioned not letting your job dictate your goals, but there's a case for the opposite. Like, if your job does use certain tools heavily, also decide, like, if it's within your long-term plan, use that opportunity to gain experience and practice, put things into practice.
I agree, but it has to be done intentionally.
Yes, of course.
What I mean is, sometimes students who, before the job, they tell me, okay, so when I get this job, so what's next? And I sometimes tell them, get to the job, understand what the job is offering, understand where the job is tracking you. Maybe you can track your roadmap along with what you doing at the job, as long as it's intentional.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
If you can get both things to meet at some point, that's
the
golden.
problem is the lack of intention, the lack of direction.
Yes.
It's not letting the job inform your roadmap or not. In fact, I think it's the best way. It's like going with the current.
You're getting paid to learn.
And also not going against current.
Yeah.
If your roadmap is in line with what you're doing at work, it's easier, it's cheaper, because all those trainings are surely going to be paid
Available,
by exactly. Be available and be paid by your employer. So it would be great, but you have to be intentional.
And if you have somebody, which in my case you heard it, I had Jubee. If you have somebody that can kind of act as a safeguard that keeps you honest to your own plans, that is huge.
And that's what we have at Yellowtail Tech. We're not only helping you getting your first job, but we also create an environment where you can come back and we can help support you to not get caught up in that shiny object syndrome situation.
Because this happens at all levels. Like, our students know there's many ways to skin a cat. Yeah. We try to teach you the most effective way, the easiest to learn. So when a student comes and says, but I learned this other way to do it, we're not gonna fully encourage that, because we know it's a distraction for most.
We call it rabbit holes.
Yeah.
It's an easy way to go into a rabbit hole, and there are many of it. Make sure you have a roadmap. You go in with intention.
Learn to say no.
Exactly.
Like when you're drifting, say no. It's not a forever no.
And also,
it's right now I don't have the cycles to learn.
And sometimes, even if the technology is amazing, it's new, it's cutting edge, sometimes it's not for you. Focus on your lane, run your race, and don't get trapped in with this shiny object syndrome.